So this is another off-the-cuff type video that I didn't even know if I was going to get to make or not this week because I've been busy. Yeah, it's an old excuse of mine, but I've just had a lot of things going on. Nothing major, nothing bad. But I was thinking about the kind of this has to do with relapses, and I know in certain context of language, you could call it a slip maybe versus a full-blown relapse or whatever it is you would like to call, depending upon what happens. But in AA, like if you haven't had a drink for 4 or 5 years and all of a sudden one night you just have a couple of beers or you buy a six-pack or whatever it is, or you stop at a bar and you end up having one too many and you get drunk again, or if you end up on a drunken bender, regardless, it's treated that the 5 years or 5 months or whatever amount of time you may have strung together is all of a sudden created like, is almost treated like some sort of invalidation of all of it. Like you didn't accomplish anything, you didn't learn anything, you didn't maybe do anything in that period of time. It's just, it's all gone, it's out the window. And it got me to thinking about something that was really hard for me to really pinpoint exactly because I was in AA over 11 years, closing in on 12 years. I sat down and I looked at the dates in my mind. I didn't sit down with a piece of paper, I mean to say. I just kind of tried to comb over life events and everything for when I first went into what was going on in my life when I left. And I realized that, yes, it was close to 12 whole years in that god-awful cult religious program, but it meant that I had to go further back in time to try to figure out if maybe my attitude about slipping up was different prior to AA programming and the way AA programming gets into your brain. You hear people brag all the time in meetings about, oh, we've successfully screwed up your drinking now. You're screwed up forever, as though this is a good thing, and I think it's actually a harmful and detrimental thing. Because I remember, and I had to go back in time with this, I remember when I would try to quit drinking and I would say, well, I'm just going to drink a little, or, well, I'm going to see if I can get through a week without a drink, but, I probably know I'm not going to, and a day at work would be just too hard, and on the way home, I'd stop at my normal liquor store and I would get a bottle and I would drink it. I don't remember, and again, memory is kind of faulty. I almost rattled off a William Faulkner quote about memory remembering and memory knowing, but I don't remember it verbatim. Bit of a pun there. But I don't really remember feeling like I had committed some horrifying inhuman crime against humanity or something like that, like I had committed some major offense in the eyes of some mystical higher power that was now going to torture and punish me with some kind of god-awful life event that was going to really, be just the most end-of-the-world type of destructive thing because I had slipped up and drank. I don't remember having that attitude of near religious terror, like I had finally thrown away my soul in some kind of way, or I had done something really like crossing the point of no return. I remember thinking to myself, well, I said I was going to stop drinking, but damn, it's hard to stop drinking, and I've got all these things going on, and I had the justifications behind it, well, if you had my life, you'd probably drink too, anyway. But I don't remember that just utter shame, that utter crushing feeling of defeat until after I got to AA. I talked before on here one time about one of my first relapses and, what I did about it. I felt like I had done something terrible, even though nothing happened. Nothing really happened. I mean, I drank and I got a buzz. I didn't even get drunk. But there was this horrifying feeling of poisonous guilt just eating me up inside, eating me alive, to where I kept thinking to myself, I must be the worst human being on the face of the earth to have done this. And of course, gradually it just got worse with every relapse during my time in the religious cult religion. Another one of my famous gaffes that I admit to on here. But no, over time in the religious cult of AA, it got worse. Every time I would have a relapse, I had felt like I had committed it was like the equivalent feeling some virtuous person must have if they have committed a murder. Even though it may have been in defense of their own life, and even though it may have not been their fault that they had to do this, but like somebody might feel if they were one of these really deeply devout religious people and you just shot somebody in cold blood for the very first time and you're just reeling in horror, like you've just really crossed the point of no return, that you can't go back, that you have now become a new type of inhuman monster. To rip off the line in the Stephen King book, The Shining, this inhuman place makes human monsters. Like you had done something borderline unspeakable. And I remember after a period of time in AA, when it dragged on a little bit further, there was this feeling of, well, I have totally thrown whatever hope there was for me away completely. I now accept the fact that I am an utter garbage human being with no redeeming qualities whatsoever, that there is no hope for me at this point, and I might, this is the end, more or less. And I think a major big part of deprogramming from cult thinking, in my opinion, or at least for me, was throwing away any attachment to how long it had been since I had had a drink, how long it had been since I had touched one or thought about one or something like that. Linear time and how much time I had been without a drink no longer meant anything to me. I am not my addiction, and I don't think you, the viewers, or anybody else who's watching this should feel that way either. You are not your addiction. There is so much more to you as a person. There is so much more to you as a human being than just how long it's been since you've had a drink. And even if you did have a drink, this shirt is a little bit too big for me, and it keeps riding up if you see me pulling on it there. That how much time you've been without a drink doesn't define who you are as a human being. It doesn't mean you haven't learned anything during a period of time without a drink. It doesn't mean that if you do go drink, that you've thrown away some crucial, essential part of who you are as a person. I have battled with OCD for pretty much for as long as I can remember in life. There's a part of me that is aware of my OCD when it kicks in certain places, like when I tend to obsess about things. Like if I get a bill in the mail that I wasn't expecting, I have a tendency to let that balloon into a full-blown panic. Okay, this bill I didn't prepare for. What's waiting for me down the road? What's going to happen? Am I going to end up completely, totally, utterly bankrupt as a result of this? Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm aware that that's OCD. I'm aware that it's OCD thinking. I'm aware that my obsession about certain things like catastrophizing and all those things are aspects of my OCD. But I've never looked at my OCD as some sort of sin that I need to be absolved for. I've never looked at it as some terrible thing about me that makes me less of a person than the rest of the planet. And when I do find myself in the grip of an OCD panic, I don't look at myself as, oh my God, you really fucked up. You became OCD panic again. You had a sleepless night. You're a garbage human being as a result of it. I look at it as, hey, I'm panicking about a bill I got in the mail. A bill that I got the money to pay for. I may not have the money next time, but if I didn't have the money, I wouldn't die. I wouldn't be thrown in prison for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be judged in some eternal damnation because I didn't anticipate a bill coming. It's OCD. It's panic. When OCD flares up on me, and it has gotten a little bit better with age, I don't look at myself as doing some horrible deed because I had lost control of it. And likewise, the same situation with drinking. I don't plan on drinking again. Really, to be honest, I don't miss the hangovers. I don't miss the vomiting. I don't miss anxiety-ridden days where I had to go through the whole entire day feeling like an anxiety-ridden neurotic mess, while my mouth tasted like just some garbage rake had been through it, like a dumpster had been through it. And no matter how much I brushed my teeth or rinsed my mouth out with mouthwash or how many Cokes I drank throughout that day, it still felt like that. I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all. But if I drank again, what would it mean? It would mean I had a drink. That's all it would mean. It wouldn't mean that I turned my back on God. It wouldn't mean that I was a selfish, self-centered, narcissistic, horrifying person full of character defects and fear and self-loathing and all the other nasty buzzwords that they program into your head to make you feel like that you're just this horrible human being because you struggle with addiction. I did talk about in the last full-length video I made about how AA perpetuates stigma, and I think the stigma that carries over into the public consciousness about how people with addictions are just awful human beings, how we're just terrible human beings that just deserve the worst of the worst type of treatment, is something that already goes on in the brains of people who have addictions to begin with. There have been so many times that I would try to put together some time and I would drink, and then I would feel like, even before AA, I'd be like, well, shit, I fucked up. Well, I really wanted to do this, but I just couldn't do it. But I don't recall just that near religious condemnation and self-hatred that I had in AA before that time. And, you know, the fact that you're dealing with with a society that stigmatizes that addiction doesn't serve to make it any better for you if you are struggling with an addiction. I'm not saying that there's not serious consequences to addiction, but I think everybody who's addicted knows that. I don't know of a single person who's drinking themselves to death that didn't say, well, you know, I don't even know that this could be bad for my liver. I don't know this could be bad for my heart. I don't know that I could drive drunk and have a wreck. Addicted people know these things. We know it's bad for us. We know it's harmful for us if we're too hopelessly addicted to something. We know what we need to do. You don't need a lot of self-condemnation. You don't need a lot of people telling you, running you down. You don't need a lot of people debasing you. You don't need even more stigma than you've already got in your own mind to punish you for anything. You know, I recall a time once when I encountered someone fairly kind of normal, I guess, in the real world during a period near the end in AA when I kind of fessed up to him, kind of like a coworker person. I said, I drank a 6-pack of beer last night and I'm a liquor drinker normally. I'm a vodka drinker. But I had said to somebody, I drank a 6-pack of beer last night. I'm struggling with sobriety and everything. And they kind of looked at me and they're like, well, dude, you just drank. I mean, if you started walking around a neighborhood, any neighborhood you live in, I'm sure, and you told people, I drank a 6-pack last night, or I drank a bottle of vodka last night, they wouldn't look at you with, man bought a 6-pack of beer, the man bought a bottle of vodka. You know, I don't want you living near to me or something. You know, 90% of society probably imbibes in something at one point or the other. It's not a crime to have a slip. It's not a crime to have a drink. It's not a condemnation of who you are as a person. It means that you're struggling with an addiction and you kind of temporarily lost a struggle. But it doesn't mean the fight's over. It doesn't mean that you have to capitulate and surrender to a cult religion to do your thinking for you. It doesn't have to determine your self-worth as a person. It doesn't have to determine who you are. You're not an addiction. You're not a drinking problem. There's more to every single person who has an addiction problem than just their addiction problem. You know, the sum of a man or a woman or whatever is not just their struggle with a substance. There's more to them and there's more to human beings than that. So don't relegate yourself to a position of thinking, oh, if I relapse again, I'm just it. You know, this is the end. I'm the worst human being ever. I'm garbage. I'm whatever. Don't feel that you have a need to judge yourself by how much time you could put underneath your belt. I haven't drank in a very long time, but it has no meaning for me whatsoever. It's a non-issue in my life. You know, okay, I'm not drinking right now. It's not a big deal. It's not like it defines me. It's not like my whole entire world hinges upon the fact that it's been a very long time since I've had a drink. And I think this is about all the time I think I've said all I can say here, but got to change this shirt. I don't it's getting on my nerves there, riding up on my neck like that anyway. But hopefully I'll have Hopefully I'll have a completely planned and put together video for you guys in the future instead of just the shorts I'm doing. Although I'm going to keep doing shorts when I get spare moments. I kind of think that I can get a pretty salient point, not a salient cross, a salient point across in a short that sometimes I might get lost in translation in a video. So I'll see you guys next week. But before I go, chime in the comments and let me know about your feelings about a relapse or a slip or whatever it is. It's a slip. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take away who you are. It doesn't mean you're nobody. It doesn't mean that you're a failure in life and that you should bow and scrape for the rest of your entire existence. Let me know if unlearning the shame and stigma around having an addiction or getting addicted to something, let me know if letting go of that stigma might make you more happier or content, or more importantly, let me know how it's worked out for you now that you have let go of that stigma. See you guys next week.